So we've got Sacred Love, Daniel Nahmod. Do you need a little help, honey?
It's Father's Day. I should get lots of help.
This is true. Happy Father's Day to everyone.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do one everybody knows. If you don't know it, you'll learn it really fast. Hey guys, make sure she's on. Microphone, please. Dave and Brian.
Testing. There we go. Happy Father's Day. Welcome everyone here as well as those joining us online to Unity Spiritual Center, where we are about transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in the world. My name is Amber McKenzie, and I'm your platform assistant this morning. I'd like to ask everybody now to please take a moment to silence their cell phones. That would be great. And before we get going this morning, I'd like to ask Kimberly Frechette to come up and read a short poem about her journey here at Unity.
This just kind of represents a journey of how I've met all you people and like being here. Sunday morning when I wake, I rush to join and to partake. This unity, this holy place, it is the start of my spiritual race. Gary, Jane, and Dennis too, I'm so amazed with all you do. You teach, you instruct, and entertain. Everything I learn, I do retain. I'm blessed to join the hospitality team. Shirley, Candy, and I all enjoy this service dream. I feel like I am meant to be a part of this whole unity. The joy, the love, the praise, the hugs, all these things my heart they tug. As simple as it sounds, as simple as can be, the truth is simple, the truth is unity.
Thank you, Kimberly. That was awesome. That's really good. Okay, we want to begin our time together by sharing our opening affirmation. I will say it once and then ask that you repeat it with me. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. Together? There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. This is Unity's foundation principle: one presence, one power, one life, living through and as each one of us. Okay, so this morning we will be hearing from the awesome Dennis Ashley, who will be sharing the Sunday message, and he will also be leading meditation. So, twofer. We are also being blessed musically this morning by the Wrights, Sean and Tawny. And now it's time to stand if you can and sing our community song.
Okay, everybody, we're going to sing Immortal, and I think you know this. You get to do the na-nas in the chorus. I'll do the verse, but we'll get you warmed up with some na-nas. Na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Come on, man, you know those. Na-na-na-na-na-na. You can clap if you want to. Na-na-na-na-na-na. We do our best to be immortal and leave a legacy behind. Nobody cares about how we struggle to be a legend in our own right. Everybody wants to be a hero. We try to stick our claim to fame, but what we take adds up to zero. It's what we give that wins the game. This is your part. And so we find our center and we get a little bit better and we learn to trust our heart and soul. And now I finally get it. I don't need no credit, 'cause my heart is where it's ready to go. I'm gonna give it all away before I go. Na-na-na-na-na-na. Let's sing it in French. Na-na-na-na-na-na. We offer up random acts of kindness. Well, nobody ever needs to know. The ones we help can never find us. We keep in touch by letting go. And so we find our center and we
Okay, so let's see. Saturday, June 23rd. The landscape team could use some extra help. I'm reading a statement from Frida here. So we are prepared to keep you fueled with coffee and apple fritters, which is very tempting. If you can come join us on Saturday, June 23rd from 8:30 to noon. Among the things that you will be doing would include ant-proofing the office wing, which means digging up what surrounds the wing, including some well-established Oregon grape, and replacing it with gravel. We also hope to move the round concrete table from the back of the building to the prayer garden. We will also continue with the normal working of raking, weeding, and deadheading spent flowers. I don't know what that means, but that sounds fun. I'm not a gardener, as you can tell.
Or you could go and find out.
Yeah, maybe I should. I need to learn these things. Okay, and then walk summer parkways with us. So that will begin on Thursday, June 21st. It will begin at 6:30 p.m. Al is coordinating them. Is that right, Al? I mean, yeah. So talk to Al if you have any questions. And then, so this week's snacks were brought to us by exotic pet owners. Yeah, exotic pet owners. And next week, we are asking RV owners, recreational vehicle owners, to bring snacks. Who has an RV? Anyone? Okay, so Marlene, you can bring the snacks. Okay, and Meals on Wheels needs you. They are requesting Monday and Tuesday drivers. So that will be in South Spokane every 5th week, and it's 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Next deliveries are the week of July 8th. So if you are interested in doing that, talk to Dennis. Is that right? Is that okay? Talk to Dennis.
Let me say something.
Yeah, please.
Just so everybody knows, it's something that we've been doing a long time. Volunteering on that one, and we just haven't had the volunteers lately. So it's really it's a nice thing. It's really not much effort. I mean, it's once every 5th week. It's a couple of hours. But we're really close to having to cancel our participation because we just haven't had the drivers. Oh, Judy?
Can you just be a driver?
Yeah, that's...
I mean, if you got a buddy.
Oh, I'm not close enough, so I don't know the answer to that. I think you have to get out and deliver the meal, too.
Yeah.
Do you? Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Dennis, you do, because there's some people in my apartment complex that get it, and I see them deliver it to their door.
Oh, okay. So if you got the time, that would really be great. Thanks.
I think that's it for the announcements. Am I right?
Thank you, Ann.
Yes. You're welcome. Anytime.
We haven't done this song in a long time, but it's a perfect song for Father's Day called Father in Our Sin. And as we settle into meditation, this is actually kind of an upbeat song, so we're just going to kind of center around the words and we'll take it from there. And it does repeat through, so if you don't know it, we'll sing it, and then if you think you can join us, that'd be good.
For the peace and the conflict, for the silence and song,
So let's take a few minutes now and move into meditation. And I invite you to put down anything that you might be holding just so that you can relax fully into the moment. And if you're new to meditation, it's nothing more than just getting quiet, turning inward, and connecting with that holy spot, that holy place, deep within. So let's take a moment now, and let's just breathe into the moment. Breathe into the moment. We breathe in deeply, and our breath comes in and focuses us. Imagine drawing that breath right into your heart. And you breathe deeply into this moment. Because deep within, we find the truth. Deep within, in the quiet of the moment, we find the Spirit of God within. And we settle into the moment and we breathe even more deeply. Spirit of God, fill us with loving kindness. Fill us with that perfect peace that passes all understanding. Because there, in the quiet, we discover what we are. The child of God. The child of Spirit. So let's just be with that truth in the silence. The Spirit of God, thank you. Thank you for filling all of us with that sense of loving kindness that simply is. And so it is. Thank you, God. Amen.
My soul, thank you for the blessings of am the one. Oh, Father of my soul, thank you for the blessings of this day. Oh, Father of my soul, thank you for the blessings of this day. Sing one more time. Oh, Father of my soul, thank you for the blessings of this day. Oh, Father of my soul, thank you for the blessings of this day.
Sean and Tani are so wonderful. Hey. The 10 minutes before the service started, they said, well, we've got this meditation song, but we think it's too upbeat for, to lead into meditation. Should we change it? I said, no, meditations don't have to be dreary. So thank you for your flexibility. We appreciate that. Well, it's Father's Day, so first of all, turn to the person next to you, and it doesn't matter if they're male or female. Say Happy Father's Day. Now, when I stand up here, I'm supposed to start off with a joke, or I'm supposed to start off with kind of a nice, happy story or something like that. I've got a sadder story that I want to start with, okay? And so give me some permission for the sadder story, and don't worry, it's Unity. Somewhere at the end of the talk, I'll make it nice again. So in the 17th century, in Japan, there was a father and a son. The mother had died a couple of years before. And there was nothing sweeter than the love between the father and son. I mean, it was just spectacular. The father was a businessman. And one time, he had to go away on a business trip. And so the young 13-year-old boy stayed with some neighbors. And then while the father was away, bandits raided the town and set fire to everything, killed a lot of the people there, and killed the neighbors that the young boy was staying with. They kidnapped the young boy, took them with him. When the father returned, he was just devastated, and he had some people tell him that in the fires that his son had been killed. Now, he didn't know that he'd actually been kidnapped, so he thought he was killed, and they said you can't recognize him because of the fires and all the devastation, everything that had happened. So they had a ceremony for the young boy. And then about 3 months later, this young 13-year-old boy escaped from the bandits, and he came back to the village. He got there about midnight, and he knew that his father was up, and he knocked on the door and said, "Father, let me in, it's me." But the father knew that he'd already buried his son. And so he decided that it was the village boys playing a prank on him. And so the young boy kept knocking, "Father, let me in, Father, let me in." And he kept ignoring him. And this went on for an hour. And then finally the young boy gave up, and he went away and was never heard from again. Pretty uplifting for Father's Day. But here's the question. How many times have we had the truth banging away at the door of our consciousness, saying, "Let me in, let me in"? And we've decided, no, I already know better. I've already decided what the truth is, and I'm going to ignore it. I mean, we've all been there, right? At one point or another, because we're human beings. So today what I want to talk about is big mistakes and big forgiveness. And I don't want to talk about the little mistakes. We added up a column of numbers wrong, or we left our shopping list at home. I mean, we've all made those mistakes. No, I want to talk about the big mistakes. And if you've never made a big mistake, if you could just transcend now, that would be great. Now, when I say big mistakes, I'm talking about the ones that change our lives. The ones where we could go down this road or we could go down this road, but we make a big mistake and it changes things. And we're human beings, and because we're human beings, we live in a social world. We're surrounded by family, by people, by fellow congregants. And so when we make a big mistake, divorces, weddings, work, careers, a devastating mistake with finances. When we make mistakes like that, because it's a social world, it has consequences. It has consequences for us, and it has consequences for the people we surround ourselves with. And it becomes challenging, doesn't it? It becomes tough how we take that all in and we try and incorporate it into our lives. And sometimes we do a good job of that. And sometimes we do a poor job of that. But making even a big mistake, in a sense, that's not really a big deal. Again, because we all do them. What's more significant, what's more relevant, I think, is repeated mistakes. What happens when we keep making the same mistake again and again? And that keeps popping up in our lives. And the point, one of the points of my talk today is that when we do that, when we make repeated mistakes, when they just keep emerging in our lives, it's because we've got something to learn there. So there's something there to teach us. So there's this Zen master, and he's playing with his dog, and he throws a stick out. The dog goes and runs out and catches it, his tail's wagging, and he loves it. He brings it back, and it's just lots of fun. And sometimes he doesn't throw anything at all. He just points, and the dog runs out and gets a toy and brings it back. And then one of his students come, and the students say, Master, I have some confusion about some of the Zen Buddhist principles that you've been teaching. As I've looked at the words, the sacred words, it seems that there's some contradictions in there. And in today's wording, the Zen master would say, there's mistakes in there, duh. But at that time, the Zen master, being a teacher, said, the words are just guideposts. They point us in a direction. Don't get too focused on the individual word or the individual phrase. They're guideposts that teach us. They take us certain places, but they point. And the student didn't really understand. He said, let me give you an example. And he brought his dog back, and he said, watch this. And to his dog, he pointed, and he said, go get the moon for me. And the dog stood there and wagged his tail, but didn't move. And the Zen master said, what is the dog looking at? And the student said, the dog's looking at your finger pointing. And he said, exactly. He said, that's the point of the words. Don't get fixated on the finger pointing, on the word that gets used. Look at what it's pointing at. That's what counts. And I think it's the same thing for the mistakes that we make in our lives, especially the repeated mistakes. Are they important when we make big mistakes? Of course they are. We're human beings, and we live surrounded by other people. Of course they're important. But what really counts when we're looking at big mistakes is to take a look at those big mistakes and ask, what are they pointing at? What can be revealed if we study our big mistakes? So that's what I wanted to look at today. But I don't want to spend too much time on mistakes because, hey, it's Father's Day and I don't want to bring everybody down. But when we look at mistakes, seems like there's a couple of different kinds, right? I mean, there's one where we just have some choices and we're not sure which way to go. And so we look and maybe it turns out that the direction we picked was wrong. That's one kind of mistake. And then there's a second kind of mistake where the ego just grabs a hold of us. And we think, maybe I can do this and maybe God won't find out. And I know it's really common to say, if I would have known better, I would have done better. Well, I can only speak for myself, but I think the biggest mistakes that I've made in my life, I knew exactly what I was doing. And I went ahead and did it anyway. So you got those two kinds of mistakes. Now the first one, where we just have options open to us and we choose one of the directions to go. Well, when we look at that, in a sense, that's life, right? I mean, we make choices. There's this story of this little cub bear and his dad. And the little cub bear says, "I'm confused about how to walk, Dad. Do I do the left foot first or the right foot first? Or do I do both feet first and then the back legs? Or do I do just the left side and then the right side?" And the dad said, "Quit thinking, start walking." And I think that's the truth for most of us, isn't it? And when we have some really big choices in front of us, well, the reality is we should plan out, we should think ahead. But at the same time, I know we can plan for 100 years and still not know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. So planning's good. I love that. That's important. But at the same time, that reaches a point where we have to stop thinking and just start walking. And so it makes sense to find that balance. What's more relevant, I think, is that second category. What happens when the ego just grabs a hold of us and when we make choices that we know are not in our best interest? What is it that we do then? And again, I really only speak for myself, but I think sometimes when I've made choices that I know are not the right one, I think that sometimes it's just, what I'm doing is I think putting the immediate ahead of what's in the best interest long term. And so I'm thinking, well, I need this right now, and maybe other people won't find out. And how stressful is that? I mean, when we do that, and we've all done that, when we do that, don't we invest more time and energy into the cover-up than we ever did into the crime? Right? And again, that can be things like, and I'm talking about the big mistakes, the big choices. So I mean, that might be having an affair. That might be becoming addicted to porn. That might become cheating on our income tax, cheating on expense statements. And, there's many, many others. Crimes where we actually would do jail time. Yeah. And when we look at those and we go, boy, what am I doing here? Well, I'm stressed out about it, but now I'm in too deep. Well, what this is saying is, guess what? It's big mistakes and big forgiveness. So we look at mistakes, and when they're big ones, they can and do change our lives. They take us in different directions that we had never anticipated. And yet we sort of find a gift in there. Not easily, not quickly, but over time. See, I'm not sure that if we commit a big mistake, a really big one that affects our lives and affects the lives of the people around us. I'm not sure if it's a good thing to get over that really quickly. Oh, I did that, and that really damaged all the people in my family. But hey, I've forgiven myself. I think I'm okay now. No, I think we need to spend some time with that. And again, not get so fixated on where is the finger pointing, but instead of trying to understand what's the meaning behind that mistake that we've committed. What we find is that there seems to be a three-part process that can really help us when we've committed the big mistakes that lead to this idea of big forgiveness. And so the first step, I think, is just that, is that when we've settled with something that's had big consequences for us and the ones around us, I think the first one is to say, okay, well, what about this concept of forgiveness? I've been living with this for a couple of years. What is it I do with it now? And so the first step, it does become forgiveness. And I think what we discover is that that Spirit of God, just like we say every Sunday morning up here, that there's one power, there's one force, there's one God in the universe, and that God is good always. And so what we know is that Spirit of God within, is always ready to forgive. It's not bad if we turn inward and ask about that forgiveness. What we're not so good at, I think, is forgiving ourselves. Because we can live with that guilt for a long time, right? Well, whatever it is that we might have done. But that's the first step, is just, asking for that forgiveness from the Spirit of God within, from ourselves, and trying to live with that. But the second step, which is, I think, almost more germane to this talk, is grace. The concept of grace. And, I've been sort of poking around with that for the last couple of weeks since I knew I was going to be giving this talk, and tried to do a little research on it. And I discovered that, first of all, not every faith tradition has the concept of grace. I thought that's interesting. The second thing I discovered is that seems to me that the best way to go, I think, is when we're looking for the grace of the Spirit of God within to just fill our heart and soul up. I think it sort of becomes better, and this is just the gospel according to St. Dennis. I think it becomes better when what we do is moosh together the concept of grace from three different faith traditions. Let's start off with Christianity, whether it's traditional Christianity or whether it's unity. Mostly within the Christian movement, when we talk about grace, it begins with forgiveness. The Spirit of God forgives us. And say, okay, that feels good, that makes sense. Now, even in the Christian tradition, it doesn't end there. That's just the beginning point, is forgiveness. So that's pretty useful. The second faith tradition, though, I think that I found really useful is Hinduism. In Hinduism, their concept of grace is called anugraya. Anugraya. And so anugraya says that the Spirit of God fills us with loving kindness. Isn't that nice? Isn't it? And not just nice, but really useful. Now keep in mind where I'm saying we are on this journey. We've done something bad, and we've lived with it for a while. We've tried to understand it. It had consequences for ourselves and for our family. And then we started with this concept of forgiveness. Can I forgive myself? Can the Spirit of God forgive me? And then we move into this idea of anugraya, loving kindness. And what loving kindness says is, the Spirit of God does more than just forgive us. The Spirit of God fills us with loving kindness. And in the Hindu faith, what it says is, when we get to the point where we can accept loving kindness from the Spirit of God, we are transformed. Isn't that interesting? When we can accept loving kindness, we are transformed. I just love that one. But I don't think that's the ending point. The third faith tradition that I wanted to bring in is Taoism. And what Taoism has that goes along with this concept of grace is Wu Wei. And Wu Wei literally means non-doing. And so when it says non-doing, what happens is it says that there comes a point in our life when we accept what's happened and we accept this great loving kindness of God. And when we accept it, we understand that the current of life takes us in a particular direction. And when it takes us in a particular direction, Wu Wei says, accept it. So when it says non-doing, it isn't this excuse to be lazy. Oh, I won't do anything. I'll just let the current take me. No, that's not the point. The point instead is to say, let's not fight against the current. Let's see where life will take us. And so Wu Wei says, align our hearts and our soul and our actions and our words with the current of life. So to me, I thought, isn't that a sort of a nice three-part step to grace? Which is, you'd start off with the forgiveness piece from Christianity, and then you would move into Anugraya from Hinduism that says, okay, you're forgiven, now you are filled with this loving kindness. And if you accept it fully, you are transformed. But if you're transformed, I mean, as good Americans, we say, I'm transformed, what's next? And what would we say with what's next? It would be this concept of Wu Wei, which is, now let me align myself with the current of life. What's in store for me? So let's go back to our story that I started off with. See, I told you it was unity, so I told you I'd make good things happen. Well, we take a look at that story, and we have this 13-year-old boy who knocked on the door and tried to get his dad to let him in, and the dad didn't. And so the young man went his way. And what that would say is, okay, if we ended it right there, yeah, that's pretty sad. But what would really happen in that story? A young man the 13-year-old boy would go away, and he would go maybe to the next village, and he'd grow up there. And did a mistake happen? A big mistake? Yes. But we go on. And so suddenly life unfolds in a totally different direction. This young 13-year-old boy in a new village, what happens? He meets people he wouldn't have met before. Probably ends up in a profession that he might not have had back in his original village. I mean, something new happens. I think what that says to me is that when there's big mistakes, and when we go through this process of forgiveness and loving kindness and aligning ourselves with the current of life, what that says is, yes, this was a big mistake at one point, but the act of going through that three-step process, what that does is convert it to say, well, in the long term, there's not really mistakes. There's just a new hallway. There's just a new door that opens. Yes, this is not the direction I would have taken my life originally, but this is the way it has gone. And I'm not going to fight that current. I'm going to align myself with it. I'm going to make the most out of it. So this young 13-year-old boy has just this whole new journey that he had never anticipated. And by the way, it'd be the same thing for his father, right? You know, the father would have this whole experience, would have had this mistake, but then he would have built a new life for himself in his own village. Mistakes happen, but life goes on, and we just have different choices. And so, again, what that says is, when we talk about big mistakes, especially the repeated mistakes, we just don't want to fixate on the pointed finger, which is the pattern of the mistakes. Instead, it's, what does it have to teach us? What can we learn? I mean, I'm thinking about my dad, who was married 8 times. Apparently a repeated mistake. I remember towards the end of his life, he and I were talking about that. I remember saying, Dad, what did you learn? And he said, what he learned was, I should have just dated them, but I just always married them. I said, at first I said, well, Dad, maybe there was something else to learn. And then I thought, who am I to judge? You know, maybe that was exactly what he was supposed to learn. Well, we do get this magical transformation. When we take a look at mistakes and we undergo this 3-step process, we really do have the opportunity to have a transformation where there's not really a mistake, just a new door that opens, just a new hallway that we walk down. Several years ago, Patty and I went to Los Angeles. We went to Disneyland, and it was really fun. And I think it was, I don't know, 16 or 17 years ago. We rented a car while we were there, and it had one of these GPS systems that talked to you. And we just thought that was really cool. And so we wanted to go visit, actually, a little suburb where I had grown up in, South San Gabriel. And so we put in the directions, and, you know, the GPS system in this nice woman's voice, you know, told us, you know, enter the freeway now, and you're on the ramp, and you're going to go 4.5 miles, and you're going to take the exit here. And we loved it so much, we decided to mess with it. So I still remember that the GPS system said, in 100 feet, take a right. And I said to Pat, watch this. And at 100 feet, I kept driving. And the GPS system did not say, you idiot. It did not say, how many times do I have to tell you, turn around. You were supposed to go there. No, I drove past, and what did it say? Recalculating. The Spirit of God does the exact same thing. There is an infinite number of ways for us to reach enlightenment. And so when we mess up and our life goes in a different direction, as long as we align ourselves with the Spirit of God, what's the Spirit of God within say? Recalculating. We thought you were going to go this way. I mean, isn't that a good thing? Can you imagine if that Spirit within said, you idiot! How many times do I have to tell you? Take a right. No, it just says recalculating. Yeah? And as long as we align ourselves with the Spirit of God, we just discovered there's an infinite number of ways to reach enlightenment. And when we do, when we get to that point where we get a breather, and we get a chance to look back at our lives, what we find is that Spirit of God was with us every step of the way. What we find is, yeah, there's some mistakes I've made, but the Spirit of God doesn't really make any mistakes. Instead, there's just that extension of loving kindness every part of the way. There's that extension of grace in all of its manifestations. We are so blessed when we just get out of our own way. We are so blessed when what we do is say, God, where would you like to go. And we get our ego out of the way and we just say, Spirit of God, just take me. We go with that current of life, and what we find, just spectacular riches that we never could have anticipated. People loving us that we never would have guessed. Choices that just add to and decorate our lives. And so it is. Namaste.
Unity stands for peace in the presence of conflict, for love in the presence of hatred, for forgiveness in the presence of injury. Unity honors the many names for God, the many paths to God, for we know there is only one power, one presence, one life. So whoever you are and wherever you are on your journey of transformation, you are welcome here. We would especially like to welcome anyone who is here for the very first time. If this is your first time visiting with us and you feel comfortable raising your hand, our ushers have a gift packet for you. Is anyone here for the first time? No? What? Really? Okay, then I will not go on. So now is the time to welcome and greet each other with a handshake, a hug, a high five, a wave, a namaste, whatever works for you. We begin with our welcome song.
All right, we're going to stand up and sing the gathering song.
Gathering song, welcoming the blackness, opening the doors of spirit wide. We are walking into night, starting out together, the journey through the miracles inside. We are gathering song, welcoming the blackness, opening the doors of spirit wide. We are walking into night. Starting out together, journey through the miracles inside.
Good morning, Unity folks. My name is Jim Sledge. I have the privilege of being the treasurer on your board of trustees. And this is the time in our service where we acknowledge your gifts, your tithes, and your love offerings. So if you would take those either into your hand or into your heart, and let's say our prosperity blessing together. I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share. And so it is.
So I'm proud to introduce this morning my youngest son, Brian. He's just been a delightful child. Whole life, we love him dearly. We have a brand new granddaughter from Brian and Missy Wright, and her name is Ella, and she's a doll, and I get to see her today. And thank you. And Brian is going to, he's a wonderful pianist. He writes a lot of original music, and he's going to share one of those compositions for you this morning.
So I have to make a quick correction. This is not a composition that I'm doing, but it's an arrangement. And so, given the opportunity to come here and play for you this morning, which is, it's always a treat for me because I'm always stuck in the back with David. Hey, David. So I don't get the opportunity a lot to do this. So, like I said, given the opportunity, and for Father's Day, I thought to myself, okay, well, what's a good song that I can do to honor the fathers? And while I was doing some research, and I could play Madonna, Beyonce, or Jay-Z. But then I came across Neil Young, and though it's not specifically written for his own father, Neil Young's Old Man has come to define the similarities and differences between men at different stages of their life. Young actually wrote it in his early 20s for the caretaker of a Northern California Broken Arrow Ranch, which the 23-year-old hippie bought in 1970. So, to myself, to my dad, to all the dads, here's my arrangement of Old Man.
my family came to us. Let's take a moment and join me, if you will, in saying thank you for these love offerings. Mother, Father God, we say thank you. We're blessed by the energy and the love behind these love offerings. We know that what happens is the Spirit of God touches us in so many ways, and we are blessed, and so it is. Thank you, God. Amen.
And as we are giving thanks for the gifts we are receiving at Unity Spiritual Center, we want to take time to thank all those in service to our ministry. And today we are saying thank you to the baristas. There are over 18 baristas. And over the years, they have raised thousands of dollars for Unity Spiritual Center. And they have welcomed hundreds, if not thousands, of new members, new people to Unity Spiritual Center. So would everyone who is part of the barista team please stand as you are able and allow us to thank you. We are so grateful for your service. And now, our chaplains today are Al and Ocean. Come on up.
I'm doing a 2 for 2.
You are. Thank you. One of them, I don't know which one, has been holding the entire service in prayer, which one of our chaplains does every service. So if you have anything that is heavy on your heart or that you would like to celebrate, you can pray with one of our chaplains and they will hold it in prayer with you. They will be available at the front of the sanctuary right after service. Thank you both for your service today. Awesome. Okay. Prayer requests. You can also fill in a prayer request form, which is found in the seat pocket in front of you. And then you can put that prayer request in one of the prayer boxes, which is found right here, the front, and then also in the foyer. And then our prayer team will pray over your request for 7 days, and then the prayers will be sent on to Silent Unity, where they will be prayed over for 30 days. And if you or someone you know is in the hospital and has requested a visit from one of our chaplains, there's also a form to fill out in that seat pocket as well, a visitation form that you can also put in the prayer box. Okay, and now it's time to welcome our children.
We are singing for the stories of light. 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 We are singing. Oh, we are singing for the stories of light. We are singing. Oh, we are singing for the stories of light. We are singing for the stories of light. We are singing for the stories of light.
Is that everybody? Yeah. Cool. So we are so grateful to all of our young people here at Unity Spiritual Center. So let's take a moment to bless our children, youth, and those in service to our youth ministry. Be the love you are.
Sing the song you hear. Share your joy of life with people far and near.
And for ourselves,
Be the love we are. Sing the song we hear. Share our joy of life with people far and near.
thanks guys. You can go find your people now. You guys get to see. So cute. Okay, and so let's now stand as you are able to join together for our closing prayer. followed by the peace song. The light of God surrounds us.
I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And that's the truth.
And now, if you'd like to join hands with the people on either side of you, and let's take a moment to sing our peace song.
That was meant to be with God our Creator, and we all agree. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be a moment now. Let this be my song vow to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And as we go out today, let's enjoy the day with great loving kindness.